So hi there folks, welcome back to Rich Reviews, and today we're celebrating the worst films of 2016. Yes, why are we celebrating? Because I don't want to talk about these films any more than I have to, so there you go. And let me say this, when I first decided that I wanted to review films, I said to myself, okay, if a film looks like crap, or at least a film that I don't really want to interested in seeing, I am going to avoid it because I have better things to do than sit through a film that I know it's going to be awful, and I'm being completely in utter misery. That being said, I really sipped out a few singers this year, and boy, it is amazing. What I have here are several different categories, each comprised of maybe between 1 to 3 films, and I decided to give you them. So the first category in the worst films of the year is Bad Case of the Sequels. These 2 sequels I singled out because they were horrendous. I don't know why I was there in the theater for it. The first sequel here is Independence Day 2. And now here's the thing, folks. I happen to like the first Independence Day film. Basically enough, I think that film holds up even to this day. Yes, it has some rousing action, it has some pretty cornball speeches, and it had Will Smith. And yes, I'm one of those people that wanted the dog to die for some bizarre reason. Independence Day 2 lacks everything, and I mean everything, that made the first film what it was. Will Smith wisely skips the sequel, and I even think to himself, he knew this film was going to be sucky, and that's why he left. As much as I love Jeff Goldblum, he can't even save this. And this film feels like multiple rough drafts that were piled together. Roland Emmerich pressed for time, said, okay, I'm going to make this. And wow, does it actually show. And of course we're set up for a sequel that I hope never gets made. The second sequel here, and this is the one sequel I actually forgot was released this year, was London Has Fallen. And here's the thing, folks, I happen to like Olympus Has Fallen. I detest The White House Now, which I know some people actually love and detest Olympus Has Fallen. Had a Die Hard and a White House type vibe. It had some really great action sequences and Gerard Butler doing what he needed to do, kicking ass and taking names. And it was a no-hold-barred film, very dark. London Has Fallen is literally everything that goes wrong in a sequel. It's literally as if the studio said, okay, make the same film again, only this time in a different setting here. Gerard Butler looks bored. I mean, he looks bored doing the same film over again. I mean, Melissa Leo has at least the distinction of actually dying, and Morgan Freeman, I don't know how much he's getting paid to make cameo appearances anymore. So at one point, the bad guy states, it took me 2 years to get this plan up and running. From what I saw, it takes maybe 10 years for this plan to come to fruition. Apparently they're making Angel Has Fallen, that's in the Air Force One. It's supposed to be the bad guys are going after Gerard Butler. I don't really want to see it now after seeing this. So our second category here, and this comprises of 3 films here, which is the only category that does. This category is called Even Indies Get the Blues. So here's the thing, folks. People often complain that, oh, mainstream films are crap, independent films are always great, and they often say, we should champion independent films. But these 3 films prove that even independent films, and people who love them, can be subjected to pure torture. So the first one of these, and I reviewed it recently here, is The Intervention. Now, would you believe that these 8 people have a combined total of 261 films under their belt and 1,167 episodes of television between them? And you would think to yourself they would choose a script that would be wise to what they want to do. Again, 3 couples want to break up another couple's marriage because they are going through a rough patch. And who are you to break up a person's marriage? Tell me that. And it's like, I feel like this should be the death of the generation. Now, when one person hears that they should break up, that guy's reaction is probably the most interesting reaction you'll see in this film. And there's also one character that is clearly a borderline alcoholic, and they don't even have an intervention for her. The second independent film that I think absolutely sucked this year is called Get a Job, and this starred Miles Teller and Anna Kendrick as 2 people who make their way into the world after graduating and trying to find jobs. Reportedly, this sat on the shelf for almost the entire Obama presidency. This movie is set during the recession, and it's like, yeah, these characters get jobs afterwards, which I think totally portrays the film's entire premise here. And also, the side characters are the much more interesting people of the entire movie. Over the course of how many years this film has been on the shelf, Anna Kendrick and Miles Teller have become big stars. That's why this film is being released now. So the third independent film that absolutely sucked this year is The Phenom. And this is a baseball film, and here's the thing, people love baseball. 45 million people will watch a baseball film at 12:45 in the morning to see a team that hasn't won the pennant since 1908 become World Series champions. They won't see a baseball film about a guy who's barely playing baseball, has a bunch of problems, is sent down to minors after one sucky game, and clearly his father is an asshole who shows up briefly, and it's played by Ethan Hawke, who looks like he has better things to do. This film just ends all of a sudden, has no third act. The third category here is called Third Time Isn't the Charm, and these are films that, you know, granted the third time around isn't always great for either director or the franchise in and of itself. The first one in this category is Blair Witch, and Wingard has done some well-regarded stuff in the horror field. Clearly, Lionsgate Studios thought to themselves, okay, this clearly could be the guy to resurrect the Blair Witch franchise that had been seen in 16 years. Clearly, Anna Wingard thought to himself, oh goody, a studio project, my first big studio project. Why he chose Blair Witch, I don't really know, because really what he's forgetting is 16 years has passed. I mean, yes, Freddy, Jason, Michael, even Pinhead can come back and people will still watch these films. When it comes to Blair Witch, everyone is like, yeah, pass, because, again, found footage has been done to death. Yet Adam Wingard took the project and went home with it, and now is making some other films, and we're left holding the bag as consumers, basically. So the next one in the Third Time Isn't the Charm is a film called Demolition. This is directed by Jean-Marc Vallée. I made two previous films about two seriously screwed up people in Dallas Buyers Club and Wild. Unlike those two films in which those characters had an ounce of redemption to them, Demolition doesn't have anything going for it. I mean, this film stars Jake Gyllenhaal as a severely screwed up person. He doesn't fully grasp the concept that his wife is dead, or the fact that he doesn't understand why he married her in the first place. He's so emotionally distant that it's just not believable. The film has a bizarre subplot involving the fact that, yeah, at one point, his father-in-law, played by Chris Hooper, says you have to take things apart to fully understand it. That's why he takes apart his house. And this film has a happy ending in which, quite frankly, a happy ending in this film is like asking, could you drink poison instead of having your eyes poked out of you? Category 4 here is called This Ain't Pixar, folks. And these are cartoon films that I wish no one would ever see, that people apparently sometimes did. And there are two films here. The first film in this category is Sausage Party. This film begs the question, hey, what if our food had feelings? And wouldn't that be interesting? It's subject to some vile humor, some vile racism, some really bizarre sex involving food, and the notion of the fact that, yeah, you may have won against the humans in your supermarket, but here's the thing, you're going to expire sooner or later. Again, the only good thing about it was when they were showing the killing of the food. That was interesting. Everything else was boring. The second film here is Batman The Killing Joke, or as I call it, the Batman the 80s expired joke. You know, again, DC Animation is doing some wonderful films that have been based off, you know, whatever graphic novels that have come their way. But woe is them when they try to adapt The Killing Joke. The only reason why it gets in our ring is because Batgirl and Batman have sex, and there are a couple of headshots here. Everything about this film feels like it's outdated. Again, the fifth category here is what I call third act collapse, and the third act spectacularly collapses in on itself, and we're left with a film that it was like, what happened? So the first one of these films is The Boy, and now here's the thing. So Lauren Cohan from The Walking Dead, obviously, is hired to watch over a mannequin doll that this couple have recently lost their son. They think, okay, their spirit of their dead son is inside this mannequin doll here. This will make a very, very fascinating, creepy idea that unfortunately goes batshit in the last act, when it's all revealed at the fact that their dead son is actually alive and hiding in the walls. Lauren Cohan, I guess, clearly thought to herself, okay, this might make a good break in between The Walking Dead. And our next one here is The Witch. Now here's the thing about The Witch. I didn't think The Witch was all that great to begin with. Granted, this film was already having a hard time for me because it was like I couldn't barely understand a single word they were saying because they were speaking some really old English. But the problem here is this film has an A versus B scenario in which clearly you're thinking to yourself, okay, these people think there is a witch outside that's haunting them, making their lives miserable, and it's like, yes, either scenario A, there is actually a witch, or B, it's really the isolation that's getting to them, and that's why they're acting the way they are acting. I would actually love it to be B, because quite frankly, a witch is too obvious. No, it has to be an actual witch. This film literally ends with a very bizarre scene in which one of the surviving girls talks to devil in goat form. Clearly the director has said he was inspired by some old-timey stories about the New World during this time. Granted, there may have been something there, but it just doesn't work here. Our next category here is called What Were They Thinking?, in which great casts enter into a project that is totally, utterly worthless. The first film here is Suicide Squad, or as I like to call it, Insane Clown Posse Takes Manhattan. Have so many people signed on to a project that literally you're just watching it and it's like only one person here seems to be having a good time at all, and that's Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I mean, Will Smith doesn't look like he's having a good time, and clearly he thinks to himself, okay, my year couldn't get any worse, and it did. Viola Davis looks to herself and says, why am I here? You know, Joel Kinnaman is like, why am I here? Whoever played Killer Croc must be thinking to himself, why am I in a Killer Croc suit? Again, none of these actors, I mean, poor Carla Delevingne, oh my god! On what they were thinking is a film that I reviewed recently, and it's Assassin's Creed. Now, this film I finally proved that video game turn movies are a really bad idea. And this film, I think, is slowly lowering the coffin into the freaking grave. We have 2 Oscar winners, we have an Oscar nominee, we have Charlotte Rampling, we have the guy from The Wire. 4 of these 5 actors are only here to provide exposition. Next category here, and there are 2 films here, is called They Can't All Be Made in America, and this is a reference to O.J. Made in America, one of the finest documentaries I've seen in a while. Documentaries had a great year, but these 2 are the antithesis of that basically here. The first one here is Hillary's America, The Secret History of the Democratic Party. Regardless how you feel about Hillary Clinton, or even Donald Trump for that matter, you gotta do better than this in that feature, which basically says the Republican Party has always been the party of Lincoln, that the Democrats have been truly evil all this time along, and that the only way you can truly know that you're an American is when you become a Republican. Oh, good grief. To top it all off, the Nessus Husha thinks to himself, he's the hopeless victim here, he's the champion of humanity, hooray for him. Oh, brother, give me a break. It's like him sneaking into the Democratic headquarters is really stupid. I mean, him connecting the dots is stupid. The other documentary that I just thought was completely balls-to-the-wall bad is Where to Invade Next, and this, if Dinesh D'Souza was on the right, Michael Moore is on the left this time around. I'm an equal opportunity exploiter. Now, Michael Moore has completely forgotten that we are a nation of 350 million people. He goes to great lengths to show, why America is wrong here, and that, like, one country has free healthcare, one country has the really best of education, the other one has no drug laws, another country has paid holiday leave. What Michael Moore has forgotten is what I've already said, is we're a country of 350 million. I mean, Finland has 5 million people. I mean, Italy has 30 million. I mean, Portugal has maybe 10 million people. Again, these are smaller countries. I think one country that provides free education is like a population of like 5 million. And it has always been the greatest country in the world. Yeah, we may have exported those ideas, but so what? I get to what I think is the worst film this year. And the worst film of the year is American Honey. Here's the thing. Sometimes it takes me literally an act of will to keep me from leaving a film. Sometimes I go pee break a lot, or I get multiple drinks out of the soda fountain. But American Honey, I really wanted to walk out of this film a half a dozen times. It's just awful. I mean, just because Riley Coe can appear nude half the time whenever she's in a scene doesn't make a film interesting. The director thinks to herself, okay, I'm speaking to a generation of wayward teens who wants to sell magazines. No, you're not. I never heard of a wayward teen that wants to sell magazines. It's just, this film, I was looking at my watch every 5 minutes to see when this film would end. It is just awful. It is just worthless. Ken really needs to rescind their award for this film. It is just so bloody awful. So folks, do you happen to agree with any of the films that I have put up for the worst films of the year? Because quite frankly, sometimes reasonable people can reasonably disagree. I will be putting up my best films of the year relatively soon. We will get on to the 2017 films, TV. As always folks, like, comment, subscribe, and if you want to see this handsome face again, click the subscribe button. Wouldn't that be wonderful for y'all to do? I'll see you next time folks. Rid yourself of knowledge. There you go.